Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Rundown presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. The Rapids rise over St. Louis, but a midweek matchup looms in Portland, and we'll go off the pitch with Nico Hansen. That and much more on the Colorado Rapids podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Colorado Rapids podcast presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. I am your host, Mike Ravolo, joined alongside my good friend and resident Rapids legend, Drew Moore. Drew B, how we doing, dude? It's albeit a gloomy Monday, but not a gloomy result on the weekend. That's the positive we can take away outside of the weather going on this morning.
Yeah, all weekend really, which it's Memorial Day weekend, and so that's kind of the kickoff to summer, right? Which I guess storms do happen during the summer, but it was a little chillier and a couple delays this weekend, but you can't complain about all 3 points here at home against a team that we should have taken all 3 points against. But nonetheless, all in all, a good weekend, and nobody's gonna complain about that in Burgundy.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, that makes it 2 wins in a row. By the way, that being the case with that win against St. Louis, we'll get more in depth with that into that in just a bit. But speaking to that game in terms of the weather, boy, was off to a very, very cold start, if you will. Didn't play long in terms of getting that game going. And then we had the weather delay for about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah.
And the rain kicking in, the thunder, the lightning. Wasn't ideal to really get things going for the night, albeit, with the Rapids eventually getting the result against St. Louis. I think it's worth noting that for all the fans who did stick around to cheer on their Burgundy boys in person in stadium, it was a late night. So, listen, I'm not going to hold it against anybody who went home afterwards because it was a long night. But for those that actually did stick around for the game, I mean, props to you and thank you because having the fans around just creates that environment that gets the Burgundy boys going, the players and coaches. I know it definitely means a lot to them when they see everybody in the stands, and it just adds a little oomph to their play and their investment in the game when they have the fans and hear the fans having the presence that they did despite a weather delay like on Saturday, Joe.
It does, because it's not easy. You come out and what is it with? It's almost like the last 2 or 3 years, it's been early delays, right? Sometimes before the match even starts, like after national anthem, before kickoff. But this was, 6.5 minutes into the match. And so it's difficult to have to go in and regroup. And then when you come back out, a lot of times, depending on how long that delay is, there's not quite the atmosphere that you were anticipating or that would have been created to start the match. And so when the fans do stick around like they did on Saturday night, it's huge because you still have that atmosphere. You still have that, that drive and motivation to perform for your fans. And so the fans that did stick around, that's big time.
Yeah, it truly is big time. And, between players, coaches, all of us as staff, when we see the fans just show up, even with a delay like that, makes a world of a difference, man. I just love when I see the fans show up, especially the way that they did Saturday night.
Yep.
Again, don't hold it against anybody who didn't stick around because it was not ideal with how long that delay was and how long people had to wait for the game to get going.
I'll
but
hold it
for
against
those
them.
who did, well, sorry, Drew's gonna hold it against you guys. I won't. But for those of you who stuck around, man, seriously, that was huge just to have as many fans as we did stick around for, again, what was a very long night, and thankfully got to see 3 points with a win on the night against St. Louis, which, speaking of which, Drew, let's get into it, dude. Let's just get into the highlights, get right into it, and see what happened on the night between these two sides. The second matchup of the season between the two this season in 2025. The first matchup, obviously, being the season opener in Energizer Park to kick off the season. So early on, Drew, St. Louis with a chance to try to get things going.
Yeah, and here's everybody's favorite message on the scoreboard there. But it happens. It happens.
And then, that was about an hour and a half or so with that weather delay before things kicked off again. And, Drew, this is huge from Nico.
Yeah, somebody we're going to be talking about a lot today. Nico Hansen comes up massive. He had a lot of time to think about this as Toy Shirt has the entire half of the field to run at him, but he's patient. He comes up big and stays big, and massive point of the match there.
Nico with a big moment earlier, and then 5 minutes later, Yappy with a big moment himself here, earning the 1-0 lead for the Rapids.
Darren Yappy, man, had another very good performance, a mature, confident performance. His hold-up play was great, and he does a little bit of both the hold-up play and the finish here, exactly what you want to see from your number 9, and credit to Ted Kuti-Pietro, who we talked about a lot before this match, and his involvement. In the goal just shows his quality. To just a really nice goal by the Rapids.
And a few minutes later here, St. Louis with a chance, but Nico with a good save.
again, this might be going wide, but it doesn't matter. Nico has to get down low and make sure. And, even if it is going in, he's making this save. And he's been a big part of, this team the last 2 weeks. Last two matches.
And then later on here, Ted with a chance outside the box, but Berkey was up to it, making that save.
Berkey made a couple really good saves in the second half to keep St. Louis in this match. Once on Ted there, and then on Darren Yappy here. Showing he's still got a lot of quality in net and good reflexes. But would have loved to have seen one of those go in and just kind of take the stress away from the final moments of this match. But all in all, you can't complain about a 1-0 victory.
All in all, the Rapids walk away with all 3 points,
Yep.
Drew. So, and just looking at the match stats here to get a sense of how the match, statistically speaking, things went between the two sides. So both sides, Colorado Rapids and St. Louis City SC had 12 shots. Rapids had 6 on goal. St. Louis had 3 on goal. 3 corners for the Rapids, 5 for St. Louis City. And then in terms of possession, 45.2% for the Rapids, 54.8% for St. Louis, which I felt slightly surprised by a little bit in terms of St. Louis and the amount of time that they had the ball. But nonetheless, Rapids with all 3 points on the night, Drew, which was nice to see. That, like I mentioned earlier, that makes it 2 wins in a row for the Rapids, doing so at home. So I think that provides a little bit of momentum for this group that needed it, especially after that 5-game winless streak that they had going into these previous 2 matches. What were your thoughts overall on the match, Drew, especially even with that delay in the middle of it all?
It's an important 3 points, right? Anytime you take all 3 points at home, which you should, you establish this place as you're building, and I think on a night where you're missing some key players, and even some of the players that played aren't 100%, right? Your depth was tested. You had some good individual performances that we'll talk about here, but against a team that you should take all 3 points from at home in St. Louis, who are in a really bad run of form, you stepped up to the challenge and you did that. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect. It very rarely is, but to be able to win games when maybe you're not at your best, maybe you are missing some big players, maybe not everybody's 100%, is a very, very good sign. And it was ultimately a mature, professional, and overall positive performance from the Rapids on the night.
Which is very encouraging to see, because it's exactly what you said, Drew, in terms of if you're not on it on the night in terms of what you do on the ball and any chances that you try to take advantage of, sometimes it comes down to who wants it more, who's going to show that they want it more and find a way to get the result, right? And the Rapids did that, right? On a tough night, and you consider the delay.
Yep.
A St. Louis side that is fighting to try to find some sort of result considering where they are. So just overall, I think that's the best way of putting it, just a very mature, very professional performance that if you're not on it on the night in terms of how you want to play and what you want to do with the ball, find a way to win.
Yep.
Find a way to win, and that's exactly what the Rapids did. And they're walking away with 3 points at the end of it also. We wanted to talk about individual performances, Drew. Let's start with Darren Yappy. This feels like last year he definitely showed up a bit more, but this year feels like a bit more of a breakout year for Darren Yappy, the homegrown forward. He had 1 goal on the night, 3 shots on goal. He had 3 key passes as well. While those statistics kind of speak to what he did on the night, I think if you watch his play in general on the night, I feel like there's just so much more that Yappy does that the statistics don't really show.
Agreed. Just his overall game, right? His presence as the number 9 has been very impressive so far this season. His work rate defensively, which I always want to highlight, because Rafa Navarro is one of the hardest working number 9s in this league on both sides of the ball, and Darren Yappy is starting to look like that as well. His ability to come back into the play, to take the ball away from defenders in the build and really just be a menace up front. His hold-up play has been very impressive. His strength, right, using his body, bringing other players into the game. He had a nice one-touch layoff to Georgi Mihailovic about halfway through the first half. Georgie's shot just goes wide. His combination play, he's, anytime your number 9 puts the ball in the back of the net, you're happy about that. And so it was a very good and mature performance once again from Darren Yappy. This wasn't just a one-off. He's done that, and there's a reason why he's been in the lineup the past 7 or 8 matches, whatever it is, even when Rafa Navarro has been healthy, And so a lot of positives to take from Darren Yappy right now.
That goal, I mean, credit to Yappy for scoring that goal because he had quite a bit to do on it, to be honest with you. You know, between bringing the ball down, running back away from the goal, and then having to turn quite a bit to be able to even make proper contact on the ball, pull the shot off on top of that to get through defenders and eventually score far post. I mean, the goal was very impressive because of just how much was required of Yappy to be able to even pull that off to begin with, let alone score the goal and being the difference to walk away with all 3 points for the Rapids. So Yappy's just been he's hit a different level this season. It's really, really nice to see. And speaking to what you said about, you know, Hoffa wasn't there, right? He's the DP forward number 9 that, you know, there's expectations and things like this that come with that, right? And the guy, he's a reference point for this group. But I think it speaks to just how everybody has kind of been doing this, right? Where if you don't have Hoffa, if you don't have Cole, if there's other guys that are missing around the pitch, someone else is able to step up and doing so with no problem whatsoever. I think so that speaks a lot to the depth and the competition at these different spots throughout the group that we have, which is fantastic to see because it keeps everybody honest and you get good performances like this consistently from everybody throughout the pitch. So this has been just excellent performance overall from Yappy, which was just nice to see. Another guy I wanted to highlight, Drew, was Nico Hansen. I mean, talk about a guy who's had to step up big time in moments. We saw it in the highlights with that save that he made, which was the difference, right? That made such a huge difference for the Rapids on the night. Nico Hansen on the night against St. Louis, he had 3 saves. That's now his second straight win and his second straight shutout as well. What did you make of Nico and his performance? In
big matches too, you go back and we talked about him last week. You know, you win the derby match against RSL and you back that up with another shutout here against St. Louis, and he was tested. The big save we saw on the highlight against Toyshirt. He comes out for crosses and you know is confident doing that, and those are always difficult decisions that go a little bit unnoticed maybe. But you know we have talked about Nico a couple times the last couple weeks and just how he's got a quiet confidence about him. He is kind of coming into his own. You know, he demands a lot from the back line, which I love to see. He's very vocal, and he demands a lot from himself. And I haven't spent a lot of time with Nico, but the time that I have spent with him, I can tell he's very critical of himself, right? He is his own biggest critic, which is important, right? You're always going to have critics from the outside, but if you demand excellence from yourself, that's a good foundation to build off of and a way to just continue to get better every single day. And he's one of those players, you know, and he keeps the players around him accountable as well. And I would love to have a vocal, I loved when I did have vocal demanding goalkeepers like that then go and make some of the saves and come out for some of the crosses. And his distribution flies under the radar a little bit. It's been 3 very good performances in the past month from Nico Hansen.
I'd imagine goalkeepers had a fun time just barking orders at you.
I hope so. I mean, I loved it. I'll bark right back at him.
Oh, I know you wouldn't be shy about it. I know you wouldn't be shy about it. But Nico, another guy, man, like if you know, Zach Steffen, who's typically the number 1 for the Rapids, he's not available due to injury. Nico steps up and has himself, this is 3 performances now, good performances between Seattle, RSL, and this previous match on the weekend against St. Louis. Like, everybody just seems to step up when they're called upon, man. So this is incredibly encouraging to see if you're a Rapids fan, that regardless of who is in the lineup in the starting 11 and then who's able to come off the bench to contribute for this group, there's no hesitation from anybody that you plug into this lineup, and we've seen it with Yappy in Hoffa's position, if you know in that sense, and then Nico stepping up in Zach's absence as well. So it's exciting to see, man. It really is.
And there might be some absences there moving forward, right? And so having confidence and being able to plug Nico in there in case Zach and Adam Beaudry do miss time with the national team. Man, Nico has proven that no problem.
Yeah, no problem at all. And that goalkeeper group that we have right now, dude.
It's a great
Zach
room,
Steffen,
man.
Adam Beaudry, Nico Hansen. Dude, if I were literally any other group or any other club in this league, I'd be a bit envious right now of like having such a solid goalkeeper core there right now. So I think we're doing all right in goalkeeper. And and I feel like everybody everywhere else on the pitch as well for the Rapids. Again, like I said, everybody seems to have been stepping up when they're called upon, regardless of how often they've been playing, whether they're starting or not, week in, week out. So it's exciting to see, and I think lays a good foundation for trying to carry on through what is a very demanding MLS season, as we all know. So a couple more guys I wanted to make note of. Drew, Ted Kuti-Pietro, his first start with the Rapids and getting to do so here at home at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and he also got his first assist helping Yappy out with that goal. And then Sam Bassett was able to get his first start with the first team. He had a couple appearances, I believe, off the bench for the first team, but this was his first start with the Colorado Rapids first team. So it was nice to see to get those guys get a run out and from the start, from the jump.
Yeah, Ted assist, right, and the run looked a lot like when he came on against Salt Lake the previous weekend and created on the dribble, which he's very good at. And we got to see a lot of that on Saturday night and kind of what I think Rapids fans should expect from Ted DiPietro if you didn't know much about him. We've been hyping him up a little bit here on the podcast, and that's exactly why, because of his abilities. So great to see him get, an assist, and that's big for him. And Sam Bassett, yeah, you see his ability when he's able to create some time and space for him, his passing ability. He's a little bit of a different profile than his brother Cole, but still very positive in attack and sees the field extremely well. I'd like to see him take some shots on that right foot because I know he's capable of putting the ball in the back of the net and getting assists as well. But that'll come with time. And this was 90 minutes for him in a 1-0 victory at home. So great experience, but a good performance, a good positive performance as well from Sam Bassett.
Yeah, guys stepping up. Have I said that a couple times already?
Well, you should.
This is just guys stepping up when they're called upon, man. And this, like I said, is incredibly encouraging and incredibly exciting to see. Like I said, because of the demands of what an MLS season consists of, and as it pertains to the Rapids, when Leagues Cup comes up, we know the demands of that very well from our experience last season, and the run into the playoffs. Where are you going to seed? Are you going to make playoffs to begin with? Right, like all these pivotal moments that start to kick in during the season, you need everybody to step up in some way, shape, or form. Everybody's already doing so early on in the season, so all the experience they're getting now, if you're a Sam Bassett, Ted, who haven't been getting as many minutes as you would like early on, it's going to pay off dividends for you individually and for the rest of the group as you start to enter these critical points of the season later on. So, again, very, very excited with the depth of this group and the quality of this of throughout that depth that we have with regardless of who you call upon. So, any final thoughts on that, Drew, before we put a wrap on that 3 points against St. Louis?
On to the next one.
On to the next.
They keep
Doesn't
keep coming,
stop.
Don't they?
No rest for the wicked. Yeah. Couple wicked good dudes here.
But listen, two very good performances, 1-0 victories to build off of.
Yeah, man.
Because we know who's on the horizon. A very good Portland side where we've struggled there, and so you've built a bit of momentum here. You've gotten a lot of minutes from players that maybe you weren't expecting to going into this busy stretch. So it truly is on to the next one.
We'll get into that preview in just a bit here, because that's a tough test for the Rapids coming up at Providence Park against Portland Timbers. So like I said, we'll get into that in just a little bit. But before we do, real quick, as if we've talked about multiple times before, but it is worth noting because it's extremely helpful to have the Rapids app. Before I even go into it, it's free. Like to download, Google Play, App Store, whatever you have, whatever phone you have, free to download. I know it would have definitely come in very, very handy this past weekend because instead of kind of wondering what's going to happen for the next hour and a half when we had to do the weather delay on Saturday against St. Louis, you just have all the updates on your phone through the Rapids app, knowing exactly what is happening, when, any updates, how long is the delay going to go, when are warm-ups going to start up again, when is kickoff going to happen again, starting from the 6-minute, 7-minute when we restarted. So you're in the know. Like, you are truly in the know if you have the Rapids app. Obviously, as it pertains to the game day experience, with tickets and getting in, weather delays, updates on what's going on in the moment, and then literally anything to do with the Rapids, with video, with articles, with news, whatever it has to do with the Rapids, you're in the know.
Anything that could possibly happen, right?
Literally anything. I mean, we just had it happen this weekend. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's just another proof of concept there of why you should get the Rapids app, which we've been trying to tell you guys every single
Listen, it's
episode.
free. It's free. At this point, like if you haven't downloaded it, download it. It's free. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. If it's free, it's for me, right? Is that what you typically say?
If it's free, it's for me. You literally just have to work your thumbs for like a few seconds, and boom, there it is.
I feel like you're asking too much of me, Drew.
Well, yeah, and sorry to do that, but
yeah.
I think you could handle it.
I'm just lazy. That's just my laziness. Don't be like Mike. Don't be lazy. Download the Rapids app because it is free. Because along the way, like there's prizes and giveaways that you can get as well. Like I think we've given away Headwaters kit along the way. When you have push notifications turned on the app, so like, and when you come to the games at least. So when you do show up to the games and you see the push notification saying, "Hey, first one to show up at so and so spot at the stadium gets whatever that giveaway
A
is on the
Toyota
night.
4Runner.
Boy, wouldn't that be something?
Has that happened?
I don't know.
No, I'm being told
has
no.
it? No.
Sorry, but stuff like that.
Headwaters
Stuff
kit,
like
whatever the giveaway may be, or if you want to be in the know of what's going on with the Rapids, literally at any given moment, download the Rapids app for free today. All right, everybody, welcome to Off the Pitch, and this week we've got Nico Hansen, the goalkeeper who's been stepping up big time lately for the Colorado Rapids. Nico, how you been doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks. How you doing?
Good, Nico. Just we're happy to have you here on the podcast with us. Finally able to get you around. And listen, I want to be able to speak to some of those performances you've been having lately. Congrats, by the way. Back-to-back shutouts. That's huge. I know you goalkeepers like to keep a clean sheet along the way.
Yeah, it's the best thing.
Like, how does it feel to get that run of games for you, Nico? Because obviously initially you came in with the idea of playing with R2 a bit more, but seeing this run of games that you've had and playing as well as you have been, how have you been feeling so far with the first team?
Yeah, it feels really good. And of course, I know I lacked experience at the first team level, and I still do, only 3 games, but every game that you play, you learn, whether that's at the R2 level or at the first team level. As a keeper, that's where you're able to learn the most is from the games you play. Of course, training and stuff, you're sharpening the toolbox and all that stuff, but the decision making and learning from that stuff, that's what happens in the games. And it's just to continue to do so. Every game there's things that happen that you can learn from.
Nico, let's talk about a little bit how you prepare, because you've had a steady rise these past couple of months that maybe people aren't aware of. You come in preseason and have a really strong performance in what's a difficult preseason in Major League Soccer. You sign a first team contract early on in the season, and with a really good goalkeeper room, you get this opportunity to step up, and you have stepped up. So what how do you prepare? What did your preparation look like over the course of the last couple of months?
Well, yeah, that's the name of the game. It's just staying ready. As a keeper, it's a position where only one can play. So you don't know when you're going to get your opportunity. And it's just knowing that and having confidence in your preparation throughout the week, every day. I mean, you're out there with us. You see how we train, how we work, the way that we train gives you confidence so that, you're always prepared to, when your name's called upon, you can step in and be ready. So that's just it, always showing up every day, waiting for your opportunity. And then when the opportunity comes, then you know that you have confidence in the preparation that you're able to take it.
And you have gotten a taste of it now. And again, have looked very, very good. I know it's only 3 games, but those are 3 big games, good performances. How do you build on that? Does anything change from your preparation now that you've kind of gotten a taste for it, or is it just kind of business as usual moving forward?
No, I wouldn't change anything in my preparation. I mean, it's worked so far for me, turning up every day and putting in the work. It's, in that case, it's business as usual. But in terms of just building on it, it's like I said before, it's every game. There's little moments that you can learn from. We go through video, all the actions every game to see what we can do better, what we can improve on. So it's just always just sharpening that toolbox after every game. Yeah.
Nico, you talk about sharpening that toolbox, and I think that's something that you and that goalkeeper union, you guys do, and keep each other honest and keep each other competitive. And I think just iron sharpens iron, man. It's especially with this strong goalkeeper union that I see with you guys. I think it feels like you guys just make each other better. So speak a little bit to that relationship that you have with that goalkeeper union, with the rest of the goalkeepers, and how you guys make each other better.
Yeah, it's a really great group. I think I can say in confidence that it's probably the best group that I've been a part of as a GKU in my career. I mean, we demand that a lot out of each other. Drew, on the pitch. He sees, the way we train. If a ball goes in the net, we always think that there's something that we can do better, and we're always testing each other to the limits every day. Whether that's me, Zach, Adam, or little Zach. We're always pushing ourselves to the max. And then, like I said, when we do the videos, we're all in that room together, going over all of our flaws to see what we can do better and stuff like that. So it's like you said, iron sharpens iron. Sharpie demands a lot out of us, and it's a good thing.
And you talk about goalkeepers sharpening each other, Nico. It's also important that the goalkeepers are sharpening the defenders in front of them, and vice versa. And you're one of these guys who I would have loved to have had playing in goal for my side, because you are so demanding. You are vocal. You're not afraid to to speak with, a veteran back line, the most kind of veteran group that we have here at the Rapids. What is that? Just you trying to get them on the same page with you? Where does kind of that confidence and accountability come from? I love seeing it, and I love seeing that you're willing to step up in moments where you feel like you need to. Where does that come from?
I think that starts with off the pitch. I think having a good relationship and a good chemistry with the guys off the pitch, getting to know Max and Cheeto and Jackson and Reggie, my back line, the way that I do off the pitch, that helps then translate, when you're onto the pitch, then you know that you can demand those things out of them. You can be vocal with them because you know what their personalities are like. You know what you can and what you cannot say. You speak differently to different players, as when you were playing. Some players may take one thing one way and some players may take one thing the other way. So it's just knowing their personalities off the pitch, getting to know them so that you know how to get the most out of them when you are demanding that stuff on the pitch.
I like that, Nico, that it starts off the pitch. All things considered, the namesake of the segment here for the podcast. But no, man, Nico, you've definitely showed up big time. Especially with last minute moments. Just needing to step up when Zach is unavailable or Adam is unavailable. The way you've stepped up tremendously in these past few games, tremendous, man. So super happy for you and that you've earned these opportunities and showed up big time, especially with a couple clean sheets. I know you're happy that you've been able to earn these last couple games. The last one I had for you, Nico, is, of course, on your off days, as you're joining us on your off day here, so we appreciate you doing so. It's typically rest, relaxation, regen that you guys are doing, so that your body's ready for the upcoming week. But Nico, what sort of hobbies, what sort of things are you into, like to do in your off time when you do have a moment to yourself?
Well, of course, it's a new city for me, Denver, so I like to explore. I like the nature, I like the mountains. Sometimes I'll go around to a trail, see some new stuff. I love to cook as well, doing stuff like that. And then other than that, them two things, it's just when I get home, just chilling out, watching my shows or whatever, cooking, and sometimes doing some things with the guys on the weekends. Sometimes golf here and there, but I'm not as big as it on some of the other guys. But yeah, maybe I might get into it a bit more. Might go to the golf field more.
I mean, you're in the right place, man, because it feels like most of the team basically is going on a golf outing on the off days.
Well, that's
for cooking.
Well, that's why I'm doing it, because everyone is so interested in it. So then it kind of brings you into the mix,
And I think there's some good guys to kind of get some pointers from. I think like Ollie, Keegan, I feel like are a couple good guys to maybe pick their brain a little bit.
They already have. Yeah, they already have. Ollie already has.
Well, listen, Nico, again, thank you for joining us on your off day, to be able to talk with us here on Off the Pitch, and just to let the viewers and listeners, get to know you, get to hear from you directly. Again, man, like especially with how you've been doing, stepping up big time in really critical moments for the Colorado Rapids. So we're all very happy for you in terms of how things have been playing out, and hopefully just more to come. Hoping for more to come for you, Nico. So thank you again for joining us for Off the Pitch, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me. Have a good one.
All right, Drew, as we typically do, let's get into Around MLS, get in tune with what's going on around the league, particularly as it was this past weekend. Before we pick a few matches here, we'll look at the Western Conference standings as it pertains to the Rapids right now. They're up to 7th after those back-to-back wins between RSL the previous weekend and then this past weekend against St. Louis City. Vancouver, of course, they're holding strong at first place after they got an important win at RSL, actually. 3-2. It was a 3-2 win for the Whitecaps there. San Jose and Austin, they're the last two teams in playoff positions as the season approaches its midway point. So they're flirting a little bit, and especially in a fairly critical point of the season, flirting a little bit with that playoff line. Are they going to sit above it? Are they going to sit below it once the time really comes down to it? We'll see, but that's where they are right now in those last couple playoff spots available in the West. Speaking of San Jose, Drew, they were in a shootout, basically, with Houston Dynamo on the weekend. It was a 3-3 draw. At San Jose, 5 goals scored in the second half. I think San Jose scored their 3 in like the span of 15 minutes. And San Jose right now, they have 32 goals on the season. Like I said, this was a crazy match, Drew.
32 goals and 256 shots or something
that sounds accurate.
Both teams are interesting. Both Houston and San Jose are interesting. I feel like they're very different teams, right? But it was an entertaining match. I was able to watch a little bit of it during the weather delay here on Saturday night before the goal barrage. But with San Jose, with all that firepower, you expect goals, and there's still a lot of questions on defense, and Houston do a good job to score late and get a point from what was a very entertaining match.
Yeah, the lack of defending, I would say, helped make it an entertaining match. Seeing some
That
of the
happens
highlights
sometimes.
on there.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
So at least for the fan, it was enjoyable. But I'm sure both coaches were pulling the hair out of their heads,
Yeah,
just with how the defending was going, or lack thereof, in that match. Moving on to Montreal versus LAFC. That was a 2-2 draw at Stade Saputo. Montreal was able to get a 2-0 lead at one point with Giacomo Vrioni and Prince Owusu getting the couple goals for Montreal, but then LAFC went on to respond and get 2 back. Olivier Giroud, he scored the equalizer off the bench, I think just 5 minutes after coming on into the match. So that means that right now LAFC, they are 8 unbeaten, 3 wins, 5 draws. So of course they're going to want more wins in that win column, but I think that just shows that they're hard to beat, Drew.
They are, and it's a little, it's different than what you expect from LAFC, right? Like they've been this team with the kind of the glitz and the glamour, and Bouanga does his thing, and they're always difficult to beat, but it's typically because they are beating teams and they're scoring goals, and it just feels a little different this season, right? Which are they defending a little bit better? Are they grinding out results a little bit? They'll always be a fascinating team down the stretch, but right now they just kind of lack the teeth and the ability to put teams away that we are used to seeing from LAFC the past 3 or 4 years. So they'll be an interesting team to kind of monitor here in the next couple months.
Yeah, it feels like Bouanga's been kind of moving at a slower clip in terms of goal scoring and what he does, like, and statistically wise and being on the score sheet. And then it's been mainly kind of him, because I look at what is it, Cengiz Under and a couple of the guys really haven't stepped up to the plate to kind of offset the workload for Bouanga. Yeah. So we'll see, man. Again, it's LAFC. They seem to find a way to just earn wins more often than not. At least right now, they're just difficult to beat. So at least for them, that's a positive in terms of earning points, some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And then finally, Drew, Minnesota versus Austin. It was a 1-1 draw in Minnesota, and wow, I started there and messed that up a little bit. Austin FC, they were able to get a point on the road against Minnesota giving Minnesota a taste of their own medicine, man, because that counterattack from Austin was good.
Yeah, they Minnesota'd Minnesota a little bit, where it was kind of an ugly game. Like Austin matched what Minnesota does formation-wise and kind of play-wise, and I think maybe because when Austin hosted Minnesota just a few weeks ago, it was 3-0 to Minnesota, and they allowed them to get out on the break, and then on set pieces and everything, and so it was an ugly game, but Austin are capable with Bukhari, with Uzuni, and some of their other players to score goals like this. I know it's Kolmanich that ends up on the end of it, but it was a nice counterattack, and I'll be fascinated when we play Minnesota a couple times just to see what that game has to offer, because they concede all possession basically and just say, we're going to beat you in transition, or we're going to beat you on set pieces. And that can be a dangerous thing. It's working a lot right now, but you just wonder if that's sustainable once the summer months hit. And then of course, once kind of playoff mode is activated later on in the season.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. But as of now, they're doing it
really
well, man. Like they're killing teams off with that transition game right now. They know exactly what they're about. So we shall see. We shall see. Austin, actually, we won't be seeing in too long a time. It'll be a couple weeks at this point. June 7th they'll be coming here. It'll be a first match against them. So Minnesota, I think we got a little bit to go with them. But nonetheless, that's around MLS.
Speaking of transition.
Speaking of transition. We're going to move into this match preview for the upcoming midweek match that we have against the Portland Timbers at Providence Park. So it'll be the Portland Timbers versus Colorado Rapids on Wednesday, May 28th, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Like I mentioned, that match will be at Providence Park, and you can catch that match on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Looking at the record, Drew, for the Portland Timbers, as of now, the last 3 that they've been winless, it was a 0-0 draw at Real Salt Lake, 1-1 draw versus Seattle at Providence Park, and then they went to Orlando this past weekend with very, very few chances. It was a 1-0 loss against Orlando City with an expected goals of 0.3.
Oof.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe how that went down for them. Team comparison, Drew, in terms of records. So right now, the Timbers are 6-4-5. The Rapids are 6-5-4. With points, Portland has 23. The Rapids have 22 goals scored. Portland has 23, and the Rapids have 17. Goals against, fairly similar here, with the Timbers having conceded 21, Colorado conceding 20. And then average possession, the Timbers fairly similar in terms of play, slightly similar, I'll say, in terms of play style for both teams. So the Timbers, 48.6% of the possession, whereas Colorado has 45.2% average possession on the season so far. So both teams that don't mind conceding the possession a little bit more to the opposing side. The last time out that these two teams played against each other, that was here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park earlier this season. That was a 3-0 win for Portland, Drew. So definitely not a good night for the Rapids, where there was an own goal, Anthony scored, and then Kevin Kelsey to seal the deal for the Portland Timbers with all 3 goals there. And then just a few stats to kind of get a sense of how that night went down statistically. It was 10 for Colorado, 11 for Portland. 2 on goal for Colorado, 5 on goal for Portland. Corners, it was 6 for the Rapids, 3 for the Timbers. And then in terms of possession, 47.8% for the Rapids and 52.2% for the Timbers. So again, it was a tough outing last time out against the Timbers here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. But now the challenge really is, again, going against a good Timbers side at Providence Park, where Timbers Army is going to get behind them. And it's not just Timbers Army, man. It's the front four, I would say, of this Portland Timbers side right now that is, I would say, as lethal as anybody in transition in this league, if not the most lethal front four. We're looking at guys right now with 5 players with 4+ goals between Felipe Mora, Anthony, Kevin Kelsey, Santiago Moreno, and then 2 players with 7 assists, and Anthony and David Da Costa, their new DP that they got in this offseason. I think that's kind of the stats. I think in terms of how those goals are spread out amongst them, Drew, speaks to how dangerous this group is and how they like to go about business during every match, which is typically the transition game.
Yep. And I think it's interesting though. Is this a good time to catch Portland because they've just gone midweek in the Open Cup at San Jose last Tuesday night. Then they go across the country to play Orlando, probably still traveling back from Orlando right now. And they've only scored 1 goal in those in their last 4 matches, all competitions, And so, yes, we will get into their transitional attack and these individual players. But they are in a little bit of a dip in form right now, which could be a positive. And so if you are able to go and continue that trend and momentum, or I guess lack of momentum that they have right now, maybe this is a good time to catch Portland.
Hopefully. But that being said, it's been a tough place for the Rapids to go to historically. So the last win that the Rapids were able to get at Providence Park was back in 2020. That was November 4th, 2020, where they earned a 1-0 win at Portland, part of this push that they had to try to make the playoffs that year, pretty late. So, but since then, it's been a few draws and a few losses and a few kind of like not great losses for the Rapids. So Providence Park is I mean, it's a difficult place in general to go to, but historically speaking, as it pertains to the Rapids, it has been difficult to earn all 3 points. But maybe there's an opportunity to do so, right? If you catch the Timbers at the right time, if you will, in terms of their dip in form, maybe you can change the fortunes and hopefully get that first win since 2020. We listed out a few guys there in terms of who really can present a lot of danger on the Portland Timbers side, Drew. But who's one guy in particular from the Portland Timbers that you, as a Rapid, would want to keep an eye out on?
I can't pick out just one guy because of the very reasons you just said. 5 players with 4+ goals. So if I had to single out one for me right now, it's Kevin Kelsey. Just he's kind of coming into his own here in Major League Soccer after it didn't quite work out when he was on loan with FC Cincinnati. He goes to Portland and he occupies the center backs of the opposition, right? He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got a nice left foot, and that will free up some time and some space and some attention for the Santi Moreno and Anthony and Da Costa, who is still a very good attacking option, right, in that front 4, although he's a bit more deep lying than those 3 that I mentioned. But Kelsey's scoring goals. Scored against the Rapids at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in the first meeting. And I just think the attention that he draws on crosses and his hold-up play and his ability to bring in these very pacey, direct players in Anthony and Moreno is going to be a handful and going to be key for the Rapids to limit how they want to get out in transition and on the break. And so it's hard not to mention just that front four when we talk about Portland and their transition. We talk about the front four because they will completely ignore defending at times, right? And hang out in those areas that it kind of looks like they're getting back into good spots, but they're not really. They're really just waiting to go the other way, right? And so Kevin Kelsey certainly is the spearhead of that, but it's the front four that can be very dangerous that you have to keep an eye on for Portland.
Yeah, those, at least when they had a good run of form earlier in this season with some of the play and the goals that they were getting, it felt a little reminiscent of that 2018 Gio Savarese.
Yeah.
I mean, same style of play, right? Just going in transition, but it felt like it was just as lethal. Like the moment you saw them go in transition, it was almost guaranteed that it was going to be a goal. Like it felt like that they've kind of found that form when they were in their best form so far this season. But as we mentioned, they've kind of found a little dip. Maybe they need just that injection of life after being on the road for these past couple games between Open Cup and between league play in Orlando. Maybe they find an injection of life with being back home in Providence Park. Like I said, it's a tough place to go to, let alone for the Rapids, who have found it difficult to go to in the past few years. I'll flip it here in terms of a Rapids player that I want to keep an eye out on. And the guy who's kind of on one right now, who's found some momentum, is Darren Yappy. This is, he's really, like I mentioned earlier in the pod, Drew, that I just feel like he's really found some momentum. He's found his form. His all around play is really, really good, and I think that's going to come into play tremendously against the Portland Timbers with his hold up play, the way he connects with everybody else on the pitch. Try to kill the momentum and kill any moments that the Timbers are going to look for in transition. If Yappy's able to kind of help retain the ball, get help from his teammates in terms of finding guys to connect with, and help possess the ball in general, that's where you limit those opportunities for Portland to be able to go in transitions. I mean, quite simply put, if you don't have the ball, you can't do anything with it if you're the Portland Timbers. So between Yappy with his all-around play, not just goal scoring, but his interplay with the other guys, being that reference number 9 up who can hold the ball and connect with other guys. With his all-around play, Yappy, I think, is going to be very, very critical, especially against this Timbers side that wants to go in transition and can do so in a very lethal way. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on Yappy in terms of how much of an influence he's going to have on this game. And
if he can score a goal, right? Like he's a number 9. He scored this last weekend, scoring on the road against a team that if you do score, in particular, if you're able to score early, now they have to come out at you. They have to come at you a little bit more. Maybe have to dictate the run of play. And we see what happened when they went to Portland, right? They had the majority of possession and weren't able to break Orlando down. Sorry, did I say Portland? Yeah. When they went to Orlando, weren't able to break them down, which is going to lead me into my key for the match for the Rapids, and that is get numbers behind the ball, in particular when the counter press doesn't work. Because I don't want you to go in there and not try to counter press and not be on the front foot and bring your energy. But if it does not work, you have to get numbers behind the ball and you have to make Portland knock the ball around a little bit, because they will go straight to goal as soon as they win the ball, right? And so you have to put a lot of energy into your work rate defensively, especially when on the night the counter press doesn't work, right? And so Darren Yappy can certainly spearhead that counter press, right? But if it's not working, get energy, get back behind the ball, show some urgency that we're not going to let you beat us in transition. We know you're going to try because you do every game, because you're very, very good at it, right? And so getting numbers behind the ball, getting compact quickly, and making them have to break you down, right, is going to be very key on the night for me.
Even before that, Drew, in terms of what I'm going to be looking for, of how the Rapids can kind of like minimize what the Portland Timbers like to do, which is obviously their transition game, right? Be sharp on the ball. Yeah. Be good. Make good decisions when on the ball. Don't give the ball away too cheaply, particularly in midfield, let alone in your defensive half. But be very sharp on the ball. Make good decisions. Finish out plays to prevent any sort of opportunity that the Timbers are going to look for to go in transition. It's exactly like you said, Drew. The moment the Timbers see any sort of opportunity to go the other way, they're going to fly. They're going to go. Like that's those are the prime opportunities for them to get their goal. That's what they've been doing all year, man. Yep. Like any transition moment that they have, they're going to go all out, and more often than not, they have taken advantage of those moments. So for the Rapids, just be mindful of the possession, the decision making. If you can't get the goal, finish out the play at least. Force them to have a goal kick or earn a corner kick if you're able to. finish out plays, be sharp in possession, be good on the ball, don't give the ball away cheaply, and you're going to limit Portland in terms of what they want to do, what they look to do every single time, which is just go in transition. So considering the quality of the players that we have on the Rapids, I feel like that is, you know, you look at guys like Josh Atencio and Ollie Laraz who can kind of command that midfield as a dual pivot or 6 to 8, however you want to look at it, and just everywhere else on the pitch. I think the Rapids are in a good spot to be able to put this Portland Timbers side in a tricky position, even at home in Providence Park, and just keeping the ball. Like if you retain the ball and they don't have the ball, they can only do so much at that point, the Portland Timbers. So I think that's going to be very, very key, is just limit the amount of time that you can keep Portland on the ball in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we know who Portland is. Everybody knows who Portland is, you know, and their unpredictability is what kind of makes them predictable in a sense, you know? And so if you can be good in those areas and dealing with their transition and taking the sting out of the game a little bit, and counter pressing when the opportunity is there, and can you be opportunistic going forward, then that's a good blueprint, I think, to go to Providence Park and take all 3 points. Now, it's very easy for us to sit here and say that. You have to go execute and you have to be up for it on the night, and I anticipate the Rapids will be. They don't have a game to worry about at the weekend. That game has been rescheduled, right? And so go put everything you have into getting a third, full 3 points in a row.
Yeah, as you mentioned, actually, just a quick note there. Yeah, so the Rapids were meant to play 2 games this week with, midweek at Portland, Providence Park, then on the weekend, Saturday at LAFC. But that game has been rescheduled, the LAFC match, because LAFC on that day will actually be playing against Club America. It's that play-in game to see who will be participating in the Club World Cup. So that's a pretty cool opportunity for LAFC. That in turn, is a break. I think sometimes you do need a break every once in a while. Especially now, as we've mentioned, we're starting to enter that busy period of the season. So the Rapids, I think, are not going to mind having this little break just to kind of get things sorted, get everything right, and be ready to go for the upcoming week afterwards, which I believe is June 7th against Austin FC, like I mentioned earlier. So originally 2 games scheduled for the week, but just the one midweek against Portland. So we will get back to you guys after that match next week, this time next week, with the podcast. So anything else, Drew?
No, it's fun.
That puts a bow on it, man.
Fun, yeah. I just realized I'm kind of wearing Timbers colors here. Yeah, I'm getting thumbs down and boos. I should be. I shouldn't have even brought that up, but
Timbers sleeper.
You asked me if I had anything else, and that's what I had.
I would imagine you have a more expansive closet, Drew, but we can work on that. We can work on that.
I've got some burgundy in there.
I would imagine so. I would imagine so. So, yeah, man. I think just in the end, just to round it out, like it's tough place to play.
It is
tough place to play for anybody, but for the Rapids historically. But like, if the Rapids really do go hone in on some of those things that we talk about, you'd be surprised. Like again, we see wild results and wild things happen in this league, right? And like the Rapids, I think if they just do what they need to do, they could put the Timbers in their place even at Providence Park. So it's been a tough place to play historically for the Rapids, since 2020 being their last win there. But it's not out of the realm of possibility to earn 3 points there, as crazy as that sounds, because of what Providence Park is and how difficult it is to play there.
Yeah, go embrace being the villain.
Yeah.
Do what you have to do to get all 3 points. That's the name of the game on the road in Major League Soccer. It's like I said, it's very easy to sit here and say, but you go there and embrace that role and embrace that challenge and stick together. And that's how you win games on the road in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all we got.
No, I'm gonna go change my shirt.
Yeah, you want to go for a cookout? I mean, it's kind of gloomy or whatever.
No,
but,
I don't.
No, okay. I was trying to force the issue, but I guess that
this is not the day for a cookout, Mike.
All right. Well, I tried.
That's a good try.
Yeah, I tried. I'll try again at some point when it's sunnier. Maybe I can convince you next time around. So just as a reminder, everybody, so the Portland Timbers versus Colorado Rapids, that match is going to be happening on Wednesday, May 28th, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time at Providence Park. And, of course, you can catch your Burgundy Boys on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. That's going to do it for us here on the podcast. My thanks to the production crew, Rich and Miles, and, of course, my good friend, Drew Moore. I've been your host, Mike Ravolo. You guys have a good week. Enjoy the match on Wednesday. Hopefully walking away with all 3 points out of Providence Park. And we will see you guys on the next podcast.